Now that we've looked at a number of different controls, let's step back and look at some of the app surfaces that Microsoft supplies for building applications. Metro-style applications supply a number of different surfaces on which you can add your user interface elements or controls. There's the app window where we've put everything so far. There are app bars, pop-ups, and dialogues. Choosing the right surface for each of these is crucial, and Microsoft provides a lot of documentation to help you choose how to create your user interface to create a standard Metro-style look and feel for your application. Let's look at the app window, or the canvas as it's often called. This is the base of your user interface, and it holds content and controls. It's where you put most of your stuff. If at all possible, you want to integrate your UI elements into this canvas. You want to avoid using pop-ups for errors. Instead, smoothly show, hide, or display error messages using built-in animations. That is, we don't want to interrupt the flow of the application unless the error is a critical error that will keep the application from going any farther. The canvas looks something like this. I've borrowed these images from Microsoft's documentation to help give you an idea of what I'm talking about. The canvas is the main area where you place controls for interaction with humans. The app bar is a secondary construct. It's secondary to the app window. The app bar, however, is your primary command interface. This is where you put what would have been on menus in prior application environments. You'll present navigation, commands, and tools to the user using app bars, but they're hidden by default. They appear whenever a user swipes the top or bottom edge of their screen or right-clicks on the screen. This covers content, however, so you need to be careful about how you use them. You can dismiss an app bar by an edge swipe, by a timer, or by some interaction with the application. Most app bars go away automatically when you click somewhere else on the screen. And an app bar might look something like this on top of application content. Generally, you use the top app bar for navigation and a bottom app bar for options. These rules can be broken, of course, but be careful when you do. The top app bar should be used for moving around in your application, and the bottom one for letting the user make choices about what they want to do. To create an app bar, you'll add an app bar element to your code, and then within the app bar, create a grid containing one or more horizontal stack panels that contain buttons. Those buttons have styles applied that make them look like standard stack panel buttons, and you'll find a number of those included in the standard styles. Let's create a simple project and add our own app bar to that project. I've created a new blank project in Visual Studio, and I'd like to create an app bar in here. That's easy to do, especially when you've already got it typed in. Let me copy it from the snippet file, and then we'll discuss it. You can see that the way to add an app bar is to set it as a property of the page. There's a bottom app bar property and a top app bar property. Within that property, we specify an app bar control. The name of this one will be bottom app bar. Its padding will be 10 pixels on the left and the right. Remember, that's redundant. I can just remove those. That says use 10 on the left and the right, 0 on the top and the bottom. Within that app bar, I create a grid which contains a stack panel. Actually, multiple stack panels. And those stack panels are aligned here on the left and on the right. So one stack panel goes to the left side of the grid, the other one goes to the right side of the grid. The first stack panel contains 1, 2, 3 buttons, and the second stack panel contains 1, 2 buttons. You can see the name property has been set, edit, remove, and add, and here we have refresh and help. You can also see that the style has been set for each. There's Edit App Bar Button Style, Remove App Bar Button Style, Add App Bar Button Style, Refresh and Help, etc. Each one of these has a click event handler set to call the same exact code. We'll have to look at that code and see how it differentiates between the buttons, but most important is to look and see how these buttons appear. Nothing's going to happen if I run this code. Actually, I better add this event handler so the code will actually run. Nothing in there yet. Let me save and run this. Nothing will happen if I click right now, but let's see what it looks like anyway. Here's my application, kind of dark. If I right click, up pops up the app bar, and you can see that we have our two stack panels, one on the left, one on the right, with our buttons. Now these buttons look kind of weird. We didn't format them like that. We just put normal buttons on there. So it must be the style that causes them to look like this. Of course, clicking doesn't do anything, but clicking outside the app bar does cause it to go away. And remember, we can get that app bar to appear by swiping with our finger from the lower edge of the screen as well. Let's go back to Visual Studio and examine the styles applied to those buttons. If I look in main page.xaml again, we see Edit App Bar Button Style, for example. Well, there are no styles defined in this page, so they must be defined in app.xaml. Let's go up there and look. Well, there they are. They're in standard styles.xaml. Let's go look in standard styles. Here, let me look for app bar. We've got some styles, but that's not it. Looks like I'd save time if I actually look for what I'm looking for. Let me copy this to the clipboard, go back to standard styles, and search for that. And there we are. Edit App Bar Button Style. Its target type is a button. It's based on the App Bar Button Style. Looks like they're all based on that style. I'll have to look at that, see what it has. But this one has an automation ID set and a name set and a content set to some funny thing. Well, it turns out that this funny thing is just a value from the character set that's defined like any other character set, except it's not a letter like A, B, C, D. It's an image, and those are coming from the character set that is applied to this button. That must be defined in App Bar Button Style, so let's find that. And how are we going to find this? We'll keep looking. There are a lot of these button styles, aren't there? So you'll want to investigate these to see what styles come for free when you're working with app bar buttons. And I'm guessing app bar button style is higher up. So let's start here and search for it. And there we are. App bar button style has a font family of Segoe UI symbol. And that font is the one that supplies the images we're seeing within those circles. In addition, you can see if you study this that we have a style that creates a round area for this button. I'm not going to examine that here, but that's where we get the roundness, the character inside, and the text below is defined here in the app bar button style. The individual styles define things like what the content actually is for that button. And this is a perfect example of using the based on attribute. We're not overriding any behaviors, we're just adding new behaviors to the base style. So this is completely unambiguous. Let's make our app bar actually do something. And to do that, I'm going to go back to my main page and add a little more markup here. Let me go get the next bit, which is a text block where we can display the results from selecting an item in the app bar. So I'm going to collapse this down so it's out of the way and paste our text block here within the grid. We'll have a text block named results text block, and it's got not much except it's a header style, so it's got big text. Finally, let's go to our event handler here and add code to do something once we select a button. This will be real simple. We'll get a reference to the button that you just clicked, and we'll set the text of results text block to be you clicked the, and then the name of the button. Let me compile this and run it. Now if I right click, up pops up the app bar, I click a button, and it says you clicked the add button. That's a big header text, that's for sure. Remove, edit, refresh, and help. So you can see we're using the name of the button to help us determine which button was clicked. Of course, you could use separate event handlers for each button if you want, but most of the time, I think you'll find it easiest to route all of the click events through a single event handler. Now you can automatically open the app bar if you want. You don't have to right click or swipe or press anything else to make it happen. Let me get out of here, go back to our code, and set it up so that we can, by clicking a button, make that app bar display. And it's very simple. Let me go get a little bit of markup here to add a button to our page. Let's add a button here. The button has the text click me, it has a click event handler which we haven't created yet, and the horizontal alignment and vertical alignment are set. Let's go to this event handler, handle click, which the designer just created for me. Let's get the code for that. And this code again is really simple. It says if bottom app bar isn't currently open, then make it open by setting the isOpen property to be true. I'm checking to ensure that it isn't already open, and that might be redundant. You may not need that, but it never hurts to be clean in your code and only attempt to open the app bar if it isn't already open. Let's try it. I'll click the button, and there's the app bar. I didn't right click, I didn't swipe, I just clicked the button. Clicking it again, however, puts it away because any interaction with my screen other than the app bar causes the app bar to go away. That may not be the behavior that you want. You'll notice that clicking the button brings it out. Clicking the button again puts it away, not because of the code in the button, but just because I interacted with the screen somewhere else. You have an option to make an app bar sticky so that it stays open. And that's easy to handle as well. We just need to add one property setting to the markup for that app bar. Here, let's find the app bar markup. It's inside this block. Here, we just need to set the isSticky property to be true. And now to dismiss the app bar, you'll have to explicitly swipe, right-click, or I believe you can press the Win-Z key. That is the Windows key plus Z. In any case, let's compile it and give it one last run. I'll click it to make it visible. Clicking it again won't put it away. I'll have to right-click, and you can't tell, but I did, right-click to make it go away. This is useful when you want to interact with a number of different things with the app bar up. See, I'm moving around the screen, I'm clicking buttons, but when I'm done, I right-click and it goes away. So in this example, you've seen how to create a simple app bar for your application. And by the way, if you want it to be a top app bar and not a bottom one, all you need to do is change the property in which you apply the app bar. I put it in the bottom app bar property. You could put it in the top app bar property. But remember, by convention, bottom app bars and top app bars are not interchangeable. If something works as a bottom app bar, that usually probably means it's not appropriate as a top app bar. But physically, all you need to do is choose the top app bar property, and your app bar will appear at the top of the screen. The Charms bar provides another UI element you can use as part of your applications. It presents specific and a consistent set of buttons that are the same in every Metro-style application. You can use the Search button to search for content located in your app or in another app. It'll also allow you to search your app's content from another app. Now, to make the Search button work in your application, you have to add code that supports a given interface that indicates that your application provides data that can be searched by other applications. And again, that's kind of beyond the scope of this introductory course, but search is available in every application. Share allows you to share content from your app with people or services. For example, if you're writing an application that interacts with Facebook, clicking share might allow you to send things to Facebook from your application. Devices is a button that allows you to connect to devices and send content, stream media, and print. The Settings button allows you to configure your app preferences and access user help. I keep forgetting that the Settings button on the Charms bar is where I'm going to find application settings in Metro Style apps, and that's where you should put your application settings. You should not put them on an app bar. Instead, you should always make your applications work like others and include them as part of the Charms bar. And the Start button isn't really part of your application. The Start button goes directly to the Start screen. The Charms bar appears to the right of the screen, and you can swipe in from the right if you're using a touchscreen to make it appear. If you're using a keyboard, you can use the Windows plus the C key to display it, or just hover your mouse in the lower right-hand corner. Let's try out the Charms bar in a real Metro Style application. I've loaded up Internet Explorer as a Metro Style application, and now I'd like to display the Charms bar. I'm not using a touchscreen. If I were, I could drag on or swipe from the right, but here with the mouse, I should be able to hover my mouse in the lower right-hand corner to display the Charms bar. And there it is. The Search charm allows me to search in this application or in other applications. Let's say, for example, I wanted to search in Mail. I could click Mail, choose something to search for, and it would search it. Or if I want to search in Internet Explorer, I could search here just by typing a value. Of course, I could search here as well. Let's look at another charm. Same place here, Share. Here, it allows me to share the page I'm looking at either in Mail or in the People application. And that list of share options would change depending on the application I was in and how it had been set up to allow for sharing. If I choose the Start option, it just takes me back to the Start menu, as you might expect. Here is Devices, and here is where I have the option to print this page, that is, interact with various devices. Now, I don't have many printers installed here on this sample machine, but I can use the printing devices that I do have installed to interact with the current page. Finally, the last charm is Settings. And it's here I'll find things like settings for this application, About, or Help. If I choose Internet Options, it brings up this dialog, which allows me to set options for my application. Clearly, there's a standard interface for this, again, outside the scope of this course, for setting up your settings page for your application. I'm hovering my mouse in the lower right-hand corner to display the Charms bar. Clicking Settings again brings up these settings down here, including the wireless options, power options, the brightness options, and so on. You'll find the Charms bar is a standardized way of allowing users to interact with your application, with other applications, and with the system.